This here is the hero who put all this together. That's Sen.
Hey everyone.
And had some pretty good games as we saw earlier. I'm going to let them know we can go ahead and hop into game.
Hope you guys are enjoying the tournament. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot that you guys are supporting grassroots events for StarCraft like this. So thanks to everyone. And thank you for Diggity for casting all these amazing games. So kudos to everyone around.
Yeah, appreciate the viewership. All right, so we got SuGo starting in the bottom left-hand corner as the alliterative pink Protoss. Bottom right-hand corner, we got Nesh starting as the blue Terran. And how did you get knocked out?
I did. I lost to, well, I got past the first round of the winner's bracket. Had to face Jae-yoon in the next.
Yeah, I saw that.
Game.
I thought you were gonna win game one.
Oh, that's what people keep telling me. But you know, Jae-yoon's just such a strong player. It would have been very lucky for me to do that. And then so I couldn't get past him. Got to knock down to loser's bracket. Beat a Zerg, and then ran into Tim, who is also a very strong Protoss, and just couldn't muster enough strength to keep going. But you know, these are strong players. I feel no shame in losing to them whatsoever, and now I can enjoy the games stress-free. So yeah.
This is definitely the best of the best in the North American community right here that we've got here. I really feel like we're only missing like 2 or 3 players to round it out, but this is such an incredible collection of talent.
Absolutely. It's incredibly deep. I've talked to, I hang out with some of the top players, and all of them are just so nervous because they're just very aware about how stacked the competition is and how everyone can really take a game from anyone else, and players like that just have a lot of anxiety. Whereas me, I'm just like, I'll just do my best, see how far I can get, and see how things go. But those who are really hyper competitive, who are aiming to win it, they definitely feel the pressure and the competition in this player pool.
Yeah, we saw that last round with, I think, the surprise victory of Nyokin over Artosis. I think most people were expecting Artosis to take that match, especially because Nyokin hasn't been hyperactive on the ladder lately, but able to sneak a surprise. Nesh, in the meantime, scouting looks like counterclockwise, and so is going to end up coming across SuGo's base last. SuGo, by the way, very fantastic Protoss player. It looks like he has opened up Gateway Cybernetics Core Assimilator. I don't know if he's going to build an initial Zealot or not. We'll have to keep an eye out.
Yeah, it looks like he has. It looks like a 14 Zealot looking to pressure. And so SuGo really likes to play at this macro style mid to late game, get a big army and kind of attack. What he's doing is very in line with what I expect from him. Nesh is I'm not as familiar with him, but I just know he's such a rounded, solid player that he's going to definitely put up a fight against SuGo. So we're seeing a clash of titans between the two of them for sure.
Nesh is a sleeper player. He's another one of those guys that I was expecting to go pretty deep and maybe surprise a couple people, because Nesh, he's this time last year he was in fantastic shape. He's been a bit out of practice. He definitely partied a bit last night, so may not be in his top form right this second. But yeah, he's a solid player. He is one of the, especially in versus Protoss, tends to be a bit more macro oriented, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him just go for one factory expand, especially being I'm not sure if he's up to the latest meta and knows the initial Zealot 3 Marine openers. In the meantime, Zealot opener, 3 Marines Vulture opener. In the meantime, one of the Marines getting away from him might end up losing it. SuGo getting some damage at least on 2 of them thus far. The Marines turning around and a 4th constructing and to chase them move right back around and chase, but we got a Dragoon making its way this direction as well as the probe to even the odds.
It's a great move by SuGo. He didn't kill any Marines, but this buys him a lot of time, or he's delaying the command center timing by a whole lot by forcing the Marines up the ramp. So this is an awesome move by SuGo. Forces him to also build a bunker to delay his CC time by 100 minerals too. SuGo looking to engage here. Gets 1 Marine but loses the probe. Fantastic micro by SuGo on the Zealot, and the Dragoon losing neither so far. Oh my gosh, and gets a couple Marines and still hasn't lost either unit yet.
Oof, man, SuGo actually looking really strong here. And this is not the best bunker placement. I mean, it holds across the ramp, but this Dragoon can still create a lot of harassment along that left-hand side, especially when range finishes. We have 2 more Dragoons that are hanging out, Nexus going up for SuGo back at the main, but this is delaying Nesh quite a bit. It looks like he's going to be relegated to building that command center on the high ground and floating it back out.
SuGo's making me jealous because my units aren't this durable. They die a lot quicker than that. So SuGo making really great use of his units, and you can see that he's just being such a pain in the neck to Nesh by still preventing that CC from, or preventing the CC being built on site, like what Diggity mentioned.
It looks like no additional Dragoons going to take the front. We have a probe moving out. SuGo feeling maybe solid enough that might take a very, very, very risky and rapid third, considering all the harassment he's done. He's got that probe moving into the 6 o'clock a little bit earlier than I would expect. The 4 Marines now peeling out, pushing the Dragoon back. But it's going to be a minute before Nesh feels very comfortable. He's going to have to wait on that siege tank timing to sneak out. But I think Nesh might even go for a counterattack here, because he's got the 4 Marines in that bunker, and he's producing additional Marines here to maybe do some sort of counterstrike.
Yeah. It's... Nesh is in quite a bit of trouble for 2 reasons. Well, first of all, SuGo has range, so he's able to hit that bunker and force a lot of minerals to repair it. The other thing is what you mentioned earlier, Diggity, is that the bunker placement, it doesn't allow it to be repaired from 2 sides. It can only be repaired from 1, because if it goes on the left side, then it's vulnerable to ranged attacks. So looks like that probe there, it could have been for that third, like you mentioned, but the probe on the 6 o'clock position looks like just to be scouting for, say, a dropship because of the delayed command center.
We got another probe moving out as well towards the top right. Yeah, I'm wondering if because of that delayed command center, that SuGo was thinking, okay, this has to be some sort of follow-up drop or something along those lines, and so just sending out some cheap units to provide some forward scouting.
Yeah.
In the meantime, it looks like Siege Tech is being upgraded. Some defensive mines out for Nesh. Nesh, behind in supply overall, an observer making its way out, and I think SuGo, once he has this observer hanging out in that natural expansion, is going to feel very, very solid, seeing only a single factory down, a very late... Oh, we did see a dropship, so he's ahead of it. I just missed the positioning on it. Go figure, but the observer going to be able to push up and catch all of this, and I'm curious what Nesh is going to drop out of this, because...
This is a bit of a delayed dropship, and it makes sense since SuGo made those moves to delay Nesh's build. He's going to be able to see the starport, but it's up to SuGo to make sure his Dragoons are in the right spots to defend properly. Retro is a tricky map in that the pathing is very awkward. It can be very awkward, especially the way the units path on their AI. But if SuGo is disciplined and makes sure that his goons are in the right spots, then the damage can be really mitigated, and that would make Nesh even more behind than before. But it looks like there are Dragoons in the proper areas.
So SuGo able to defend at the natural, but the Vulture's still going to be able to land. Dropship still up, and it looks like the Vulture's able to get in the main, get some economic disruption. The Probe's now defending themselves, but that's 2-3 kills right there. And I don't know if that was worth it for Nesh, because that was a little bit of economic disruption, but that was a huge gas investment.
Absolutely.
Lost a lot of Vultures. He's down a sizable amount of supply right this second, and that also delayed getting that third factory out. So he's got the double machine shop, some factories, but he's only sitting on a single siege tank and a Wraith alongside that bunker, again, at kind of an awkward position to defend that natural expansion. And this is going to be, I think, a very comfortable third base for SuGo, and honestly, I'm curious if he's going to... He could probably grab a fourth here if he wanted to, or start transitioning towards next tier tech.
Yeah, Nesh would really like to do more damage with that drop, and unfortunately, SuGo is just really disciplined, had all his units in the right positions. Because Nesh, is invested so much in starport tech, including the Wraith and the dropship, that delays his tank count and therefore his third. It just delays things overall in a big way. Meanwhile, SuGo is just churning smoothly and on the accelerator, pressing forward. It looks like there's a Wraith, but not so sure how much delay that's gonna cause here. But it looks like SuGo is moving across the map now.
We have 3 gates worth of units. Yeah, it looks like DT, or not DT, automatically go there. Templar Archives being built to make a way towards Arbiter Tech off those 3 bases. The Wraith just checking that there wasn't a 4th base. Just basically being utilized to scout. The dropship moving out again, hoping to get something. And let's see if SuGo gets caught by this off guard this time. He's got a pylon and not a lot of other defenses here at the 9 o'clock location. He's got 2 Dragoons and a Zealot at the natural as well. and just this pocket of Dragoons. I think he was expecting maybe some Vulture forays. Looks like that Wraith gonna get wiped out. Every little bit counts. I'm not sure how big a hit a Wraith is, honestly, because maybe harass a probe or two otherwise. Pylon block at that third, but that dropship along that corner, waiting for Nesh to and this is a very exposed 9 o'clock. You can get a lot of probe kills there potentially.
Nesh really doubling down on this harass strategy, and the second time it might pay off as there's no Dragoons in that general vicinity. Oh, it looks like to be a tank Vulture drop. Okay. This looks to be working out. You know, a lot of Protosses, myself included, would think, oh, I defended the first drop. No way they're going to drop a second time, but, you know, Nesh going to double down on his harassment strategy, like mentioned before.
Let's see if he gets this Nexus. Right now, there was a shuttle, but not a lot of response otherwise. A Forge coming online, probe being built, the siege tank getting distracted. Actually, that was interesting timing there, because right as that probe came out, it targeted that, and that allowed the Zealots to get right on top of that siege tank. Without a lot of additional harassment. So nice cleanup there by SuGo. He's got that 9 o'clock reproduce. He's going to have to resaturate. That was a good amount of economic harassment from Nesh. Nesh has closed the gap in supply, but I still feel like that was a huge amount of gas investment. So he's sitting on basically 4 siege tanks right now, which is not a lot at the 11-minute mark.
Absolutely. And on this map, it's generally easier for Terran to take that third base, but taking that fourth is the biggest challenge. Wow, another drop here. Really, a lot of harassment and multitasking prowess by Nesh to go for this. And meanwhile, keeping up its supply too is incredibly impressive.
Nesh is, I will say, for the strongest part of Nesh's play is his macro. He's just absolutely fantastic with his macro and just stays on top of it. So despite SuGo having honestly being in a great macro situation, and despite Nesh going a lot of sidetracking tech, he's done a great job of just macroing behind it and spending what he's got and expanding into his opponent at this stage with that third, and that's going to put him even on bases. And if he can get that established and running, he'll be in a solid position from there if he can tie up all of the defensive ends. Because again, right now he's still a little bit light in the overall siege tank count. And there are opportunities for SuGo to potentially go in and breach at one location or another.
Yep. So on this map for Terran, it's very difficult to take that fourth base safely. They don't really have a really clean push path to be able to do so. So Protoss's job is to maybe even shut them down at that third base as a strategy. And it looks like that's possibly what's going to happen here, but here it comes. There's no shuttle in the. I'm mistaken. There's a shuttle in general vicinity looking to drop here. No turrets to shut that down. Taking some hits on the tanks in a really cost-efficient manner, but there looks to be more defenses on their way up to defend that third base.
Now the question is we've got 2 siege tanks, a bunch of vultures here. Do we have and a lot moving over to defend? Is Nesh's natural expansion empty though? It looks like it's got 3 siege tanks otherwise. I don't know if SuGo's going to have the wherewithal to reposition and start poking at that direction and try to make things difficult. Instead, just going to back off. He does have, so he's got the Templar Archives. He hasn't gone up to Stargate yet. There it's the Stargate. He's just at an off position. So he does have that Stargate out in play. I haven't seen an Arbiter on the field as of yet. Nesh, with all of this, the weapons have been a little bit delayed. And in the meantime, SuGo going to try to sneak a base at that 12 o'clock location.
As you can see, taking a fourth isn't easy for Protoss. Even taking that top left position, it's a geographic distance, quite a distance away from the other bases. So SuGo finding that taking the 12th position, the safest or the best choice for now. I'm curious to see what SuGo's planning here. You know, going up the ramp like he tried earlier, it's a hard maneuver to pull off. Generally speaking, I think you want speed shuttles or Arbiter recall to try and take down that third base. But we're seeing just a lot of Gateway Man here, so I'm looking to see what other tricks he has up his sleeve.
Yeah, mostly just playing straight Dragoon. I haven't seen any of the next tier tech units, which are usually useful. One thing for Nesh is he's kept a lot of these tanks unsieged, so SuGo actually going to be able to move in before the tanks are sieged, which is leaving this a very soft defensive position. I think he was leaving them unsieged to be able to defend at one location as another, and as a result, ceding a lot of the territory near his natural expansion, and SuGo just walking straight in, although SuGo chasing the siege tanks all the way to the 6 o'clock location rather than repositioning and attacking back, so going to end up losing some additional Dragoons. And now Nesh in a bot, so now SuGo repositioning and and Nesh in a bit of trouble. There is one siege tank on the high ground, and losing that shuttle making it a little bit harder to deal with it, and SuGo just going to back straight out, which is unfortunate because there's just maybe a mine drag and not a lot else here. But SuGo feeling a bit defensive, pulling back out, lost the Nexus at the 12 o'clock location in the meantime to a slew of vultures. So Nesh really giving SuGo headaches here.
SuGo unraveling just a bit. I think that attack was really nice because it caught the Terran army off guard. However, I think he overextended a little bit given that he ran out of zealots. And what's really going to hurt SuGo now is that presently he doesn't have a huge economic advantage like you would want as Protoss, and you would want a tech advantage too, and I don't really see that tool under his belt either. So, and it looks like Nesh's vulture movement, it's incredibly solid, really distracting SuGo from his main plan here.
Just shows you the Nesh, a perennial veteran, has been playing this game for absolutely forever and showing kind of the poise despite a lot of other things going wrong in the early stages, sticking with it, and now he's ahead in supply, which is never the position you want to be in as a Protoss player. And it's fantastic. I think SuGo's sneaking a probe out and is hoping that this top left is undefended so he can grab a fourth, but right now it's 3 bases versus 3, and as long as Nesh keeps producing, he will end up ahead in this match unless SuGo gets an absolutely magical engagement.
Yeah, taking your 4th base by 15 minutes is not the ideal time. You want it much earlier to kind of power the tech units that you would want and more robust gateway man production. But Nesh just playing miraculously right now, just really putting a damper into SuGo's plan. I'm curious to see when Nesh is going to push out. I'd love to see the upgrades to see what timing they are to, okay, look, we're at 1-1, so maybe he's looking for a 2-2 timing on SuGo here.
Looks like that second armory is silent right this second, so maybe a macro mistake right there. It could also be that there's just been such a heavy investment from Nesh and everything else gas-wise that the upgrades have been, he's been a bit delinquent on the upgrades as a result. He does have a science vessel and potentially EMP to equalize things, not that he needs a lot of equalization. We do have finally an Arbiter out.
Yep.
This is the first Arbiter at the 17-minute mark, and it's got a tad bit of energy. I don't know if Stasis has been upgraded yet or not, but now a good amount of siege tanks on that right-hand side of the map for Nesh, and SuGo starting to move out, and this is not the engagement he wants. This is a nice Protoss funnel where it would just walk in and get absolutely wrecked.
Nesh hit 2-1 just very recently, so this is a prime time for him to attack, especially since SuGo is 0-0 on his ground units. Those are just going to melt precipitously. The one other scary thing on SuGo's end is he only has one Arbiter, and if that gets EMP'd, then he's really out of luck. This is going to be a really, really scary next few minutes for SuGo if he doesn't trade cost efficiently here.
Nesh slowly poking forward with 3 siege tanks. It looks like he's starting to establish that 3 o'clock location. SuGo repositioning, maybe going to dive in here at the 6 o'clock location, and Nesh now might get punished for this because unless he wraps around. Oh my goodness, look at this. So rather than worrying about the space, he's just going to lift it, pull it off, and push maybe all the way to the natural expansion. Maybe, I'm not sure if he's going to go after SuGo's troops here, but now SuGo realizing that he needs to rebalance back to that natural before he gets sealed in, is getting a decent engagement here. The Zealots are in the front, the Vultures are on the rear. Great stasis in the middle of this pile, and a second Arbiter pulling up to support. So Nesh, where it looked like he might be able to wrap around and get a nice positional advantage, instead SuGo able to swing right back around, get a beautiful stasis, and absolutely crush Nesh's army.
SuGo really showing his skill here. He was in not really a position that most Protosses want to be, being behind on upgrades and pretty scant on tech, but with really great positioning and timing, he pulled off an amazing engagement and really took a cost-effective fight. The unfortunate thing, though, is that Nesh still has a very robust economic engine going, so his macro is still a thing to be reckoned with, despite SuGo's move there earlier.
We'll see if SuGo can get that upper part of it is can he protect upper left right this second. Nesh continuing to push forward. It looks like he is going to re-land. He was continuing to distance mine with SCVs, it looks like at the 6 o'clock. But Nesh he's pressing near a really critical choke point at this location where that would cut off SuGo from a lot of the map. It looks like SuGo going to go for another attack. There's no clutter in the way, so he's able to walk straight up in and might be able to just phase cannon that command center as it stands in the air, giving it a glorious explosion.
You know, this would be a good move, but Nesh also has 9 o'clock up and running, and it's about to take top right too. And if you can get those up, then although this is a great move by SuGo, it's not. He needs to do more than just this, especially since Nesh still will be on at least 2 base mining with the new fresh bases he's taking.
So Nesh has top right. It looks like he's going to have that saturated pretty rapidly. He's got the 3 o'clock, which has been running for quite some time. It's an afterthought to take that natural expansion should he want it. And 3 siege tanks are already starting to engage in the top left and work on both the probes that are wandering up there. They might be able to take that pylon down and the cannons. And this is before this base really got up and running. And Nesh sweeping in with all sorts of vultures. SuGo walking through a minefield on his way back across, losing a lot of his units as he's coming across, and yeah, just bad observer discipline right there, and the vultures sneaking all the way into the main. It looks like they're going to be able to pick out, I assume, every single probe as far as a follow-through, unless there's an absolute miracle. And this was a crushing blow from Nesh.
That's a critical move there, and it's a pro gamer move of what Nesh did. He has a few siege tanks to, attack the peripheral bases and make SuGo think, I just need to send a few units up here to clean that up. But Nesh put vultures and put a ton of mines in the path of the defensive units, and it caught SuGo off guard and made it so that he lost a ton of units in that process. And that really might be the crushing blow here, since he took out a ton of probes. He's going to shut down these bases. Meanwhile, Nesh has those other bases up and running.
Nesh is a 40 supply lead. He's looking very comfortable. At his main, he's mined out. At his natural expansion, he's mined out. But this is still 2 base versus 2 base, or should shortly be 2 base versus 2 base. It looks like that Nexus is still sort of running here at the top left. And whenever bases are even like that, that means Terran is ahead. And usually, as Protoss, if Terran is ahead in both upgrades and supply, it is a scary situation indeed.
Yeah, and you saw the kind of flex move that Nesh did earlier with the Radiate on the High Templar. He feels that there's not enough stasis or Arbiter energy or whatever, or spells available to cause an impact. So he felt that he can use the excess energy to use an Irradiate on a High Templar, which is just a very demoralizing move from the Protoss perspective.
Really, the brutal move would be putting a command center here in the middle of the map and starting the mine off the 6 patches. Looks like a missed recall, however, from SuGo at the main, right on top of the factory line. I feel like this is more of it is going to create a headache. He might be able to get a factory, the Arbiter slightly moving out of line, but Nesh has enough of a bank and some siege tanks behind to potentially evict this. It's just going to take time, but I don't know that this is well, I take it back, actually. SuGo able to get even in supply after all of this, and Nesh having some trouble getting rid of all of this.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. Oh man, it's a little sloppy with the units there. It's it's totally understandable. It's easy to get caught off guard with invisible units with the Arbiter. I'm waiting to see if SuGo's caught up in the upgrade game. The Protoss units, okay, 002, so not terrible, but gosh, 00 with the armor and the shields, they just really melt to +3 weapons. And so even though SuGo's pulling out these great moves to try to claw himself back in the game, the problem is the Terran units just get too cost effective. And if Nesh can hold on and just endure the kind of the onslaught, he's gonna overwhelm SuGo despite these amazing moves.
Right this second though, SuGo up 40 supply. He might have another recall opportunity top right if he is able to take it. And he's got another Arbiter waiting as soon as it has energy to maybe go for an attack at the 3 o'clock location. So right now, Nesh needs to re-macro. It looked for a second that he was basically hit this game sealed, but with that attack on the top left, but all of a sudden SuGo, with that nice drop, some nice exchanges, and some sloppy play from Nesh with the counterattacks, SuGo right back in it. It looks like he's going to move that Arbiter in, get another recall at the 3 o'clock, and this is a critical mining base for Nesh.
Yeah, it's SuGo's doing great to get himself back into the game. The Terran units are slow to respond because they were just busy cleaning up the main with the previous recall. It's curious to know, and I don't know the answer to this. I wonder if it would have been better if you recalled top right or this base. Clearly this is doing damage, but there's trade-offs. By doing this one, it's a faster reinforcement time and cleanup time. But yeah, it's hard to say which one he should have done. Either way, he's clean. Either way, he's done damage, which is good.
He's got that 30 supply breathing room. It looks like he's re-grabbing that Nexus, although he still has the 2 vultures in the top left that he needs to take care of. Still losing Dragoons mid-map to some of the minefield, and it looks like siege tanks that are in position, so needs to be careful about this. But right this second, I gotta say, it's anybody's match. SuGo's got a 20 supply lead, which is about where you want to be at this stage. He's got a healthy amount of Arbiters out in the field. He had that previous recall that I didn't think was going to go well, but went pretty well. He might be able to do another recall with this pocketed Arbiter at the 3 o'clock once again. There's a damaged turret between point A and point B. I don't think that's going to be enough to stop it. But Nesh has stalled out a little bit in his usual brutal macro. I don't know that he's going to have an opportunity to take 12 o'clock. He still hasn't grabbed the natural in the top right-hand corner.
There's another recall.
And there's another recall
right.
in the bottom right. So it looks, oh man. So rather than going to the 3 o'clock, Nesh now having to deal with things on top of his factory line in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, this is crazy. He's just trying to be all over the place to distract Nesh, to cut off his economic prowess. But just at this stage of the game, Terran just gets so strong, cleans up so quickly against especially 0-0 Protoss units. SuGo needs to think about trying to take the rest of the map now. He can't let Nesh take one half of the map. He did great by clearing 6 o'clock, but he needs to think about getting that base at 12 to try to make his way back into the game. And certainly he's making some moves that are really impressive, but he needs to do more, I think, if he wants to take a definitive advantage.
And SuGo needs to start thinking about bases himself, because we got 9 o'clock base is just about mined out, so he's going to be only mining at the top left. That'll be 3 bases. It looks like now he's starting to make move to the middle of the map to try to evict the siege tanks and turrets here, and it looks like he has the troops to do it. Nesh is reinforcing from that right-hand side, a beautiful stasis, trapping a lot of siege tanks to the north, and a continuation stasis catching the rest of that attack force. And I think with that, SuGo is going to be able to take a foothold here in the middle.
Lovely, lovely stasis. He's just, this is what he needs to do. Absolutely, he needs to capitalize on. Oh, nice, 3 stasises just back to back to back, doing great. Oh, he loses some units there. He needs to capitalize on this advantage by shutting down that top right. Even though there's reinforcements coming from Terran, Protoss needs to take these fights, and he needs to get something out of these fights. And it looks like he's just waiting to try and kill the rest of the army, but Nesh's reinforcement path is just too short, and it's gonna stave SuGo's army off.
And it looks like Nesh, with reinforcements, able to reestablish. SuGo didn't have enough units really to go for a continuation. He still has that Arbiter pocketed out, but right now SuGo looking light on troops, this is going to be a huge EMP if it lands. Looks like it's getting pushed off.
Terrifying.
In the meantime, an observer is going to check top right. Nesh has been mining up there for quite some time. 6 o'clock base still hasn't been taken. Nesh now taking that 12 o'clock base, and that could be, if Nesh, first of all, right now Nesh is in a pretty solid position. He's re-evened up the supply. Looks like some zealots are storming in. Is this going to be sufficient, though? There's a lot of mines there. It depends on how grouped they are as they come. Oh, they missed it! Zealots not doing your job, and instead hitting some additional mines. It looks like they want to make their way all the way to the top right.
He wants top right. He wants to shut that down so badly. It's definitely what's on his mind at the moment. I think he did notice 12 o'clock being taken, so he's sending a group of units there. So, okay, good. I really like this. He's making it uncomfortable for Nesh, going to make him on just 1 base mining by shutting down those zealots. But okay, it looks like just a lot of units everywhere, trying to make it annoying for Nesh.
And this might turn into a starvation situation. These have been epic games today. I gotta tell you, this might turn into another starvation situation, as the 3 o'clock is still mining for Nesh, but it's been mining for quite some time, and I don't know how much longer it's going to have. And Nesh, pushing into the upper left-hand corner, has stopped mining at the natural in the top left-hand corner, might be able to push up from there and wipe out the last of SuGo's mining bases there. In the meantime, he is losing the command center at the 12 o'clock location. He had some disruption top right. So SuGo currently has a base under siege that is his last critical mining base. It looks like he has been able to, actually I think he recalled one of his own groups of units back to go ahead and defend that. Might push up and go for another recall, but it's 1 base versus 1 base and a half, as SuGo hasn't started mining at that natural again. this is insane. And right now it's really, really close margins. Nesh up some supply.
Do not recall there, please.
It'd be a disaster recall.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, he's got that sixth sense. He's got that star sense to not recall at that spot. In fact, he doesn't feel safe to recall anywhere in this general vicinity. Yeah, you know, one of the things I think has hurt SuGo is his lack of gas units. You can see he's banging about 4K gas. He has a decent amount of arbiters, but the lack of storm would have really helped in these fights and situations. The Terran army takes so long to kill, especially with the +2 or +3 armor. You can't just rely on ground units alone. Storm really softens the army up for these kind of situations. It would have been so helpful.
Late game Wraith from Nesh chasing down the Arbiter right here. It's got 200 energy. Looks like it's going to be able to get to the protective cusp of those Dragoons to wipe it out. But Nesh has the middle of the map. He has multiple targets. He doesn't need to really worry about the 9 o'clock anymore, aside from the Forge spinning right there. If he just pushes into top left, that will be the game-ending maneuver, and it looks like he's staging up to do just that. But another recall in the main from SuGo.
Oh my gosh. This is insane. Nesh has looked in a winning and advantageous position for so long in the game. SuGo's just really pulling out all the stops and turning the game in his favor in some sort of ways, but he has to survive this upcoming attack to Terran on his other main, or otherwise he's going to run out of mining too.
SuGo has put himself in a winning position because he's wiped out, despite Nesh mining, he's wiped out the factory lines in Nesh's base. So Nesh has to get it, if he's going to win this, he has to win it with the army on the ground in the top left-hand corner. So he's got a good amount of supply to do it. He's got the upgrades to do it, but he's got a slow push into SuGo's last mining base, so it could go either way. SuGo counterattacking, not missing a beat, moving some troops to the top right, as Nesh trying to rebuild in a hurry in the top right location. So this could be the deciding battle up here in the top left-hand corner.
I'm shaking my head right now because one of the crucial things to do when you're defending a situation like this is to have High Templar ready on the high ground to storm the units on the low ground, but he doesn't have that, and his defense would have been so much more robust if he had that. But he is shutting down everything, including the factory, the unit production, the economy. He does have 3 o'clock as the mining base, but no factories, and you can see Nesh's money piling up because he has nothing to produce out of.
But pushing up into the top left, we've got 3 Arbiters, a Dragoon, and a Zealot, and a huddle of probes that are trying to stay under cloak as long as possible. Nesh losing top right simultaneously. So it's still anybody's game, and I don't know who's going to come out with it, because both players, this is SuGo's last mining base. He's losing this. It looks like he's going to try to rebuild here at the 6 o'clock location. He's wiped out nearly everything in Nesh's main, so Nesh has to rebuild a lot, and he doesn't have any territory to do it. So Nesh has a bank. He's got the 3 o'clock that's still mining, but he has no factories, nothing else, but a big pile of an army still, versus and still a supply lead over SuGo overall. So SuGo trying to get remining here at the 6 o'clock location. If he can somehow get mining back up and get some more gateways down someplace, he's still got the gateways at the main, SuGo might be able to pull this out, but it's razor thin margins right this second.
This is insane. So Nesh can't, what Nesh has right now will be what he has for the rest of the game. He doesn't have supply depots, he doesn't have factories, he doesn't have the time or space even to rebuild all those things. So Nesh, this is all he has, and he has to make this work. He has to kill all the rest of Protoss with the remaining supply that he has. Meanwhile, SuGo, it's a battle of attrition for him. He just needs to buy a lot of time. If he can secure that 6 o'clock, get some more money, then he can outlast Nesh, but Nesh is already at the doorstep of SuGo's 6 o'clock base, his last remaining mining base.
So we got a pile of Dragoons. We got, probes making their way across. It looks like they're, being redrawn from SuGo. SuGo has more supply and more opportunity to build things, but no money to do it with. Nesh, in the meantime, has a lot of money, but absolutely no base or anything else to work with. Arbiter moving up, a huge stasis! And Nesh still trying to push forward. Dragoons coming from the north. I don't know that SuGo can afford to donate those troops, so lost those Dragoons there. And that, bunch of these troops are actually stuck in the south position, and the stasis is actually working against SuGo right this second.
And there's the storm that I've been talking about. Finally, he has the storm.
High Templar out there with Storm, a couple Goliaths in the mix, and this is, oh man, the supplies remaining dead even.
This is insane.
So
go on.
So Nesh trying to push in. He's waiting for that stasis to finish so we can just move in and wipe out SuGo's remaining base. SuGo has no more resources, has a bit of an army to work with. He might be able to produce some additional High Templar. A Dragoon got in top left to shut down Nesh. So this is, again, Nesh's sole position. He hasn't been able to build any additional factories absolutely anywhere. Zealot finally moving in to that 3 o'clock location to create a bit of a disruption there. And it looks like some probes are retreating from SuGo. It looks like top left to maybe get some distance mining there. Finally, the stasis is complete, and Nesh moving in to, I think, get the finishing blow here.
This is so hard. You don't know what either player's supposed to do at this point. SuGo couldn't, he recalled in that space, but it's such an awkward angle for Protoss to attack down Terran in that spot because the chokes are so narrow. The other spot is, where does Nesh go from here? All the other bases on the rest of the map are just so spread out, and his army is just all the way across the map, so he can't take anything super cleanly. It's a very, very awkward situation for both, but I would say right now it's maybe it is favoring Nesh because he has the money and he's really making cost-effective use of his units, especially in that last fight.
He's got some Vultures, going to go ahead and cut off the probes. Finally, SuGo getting some desperation supplies in, but the Vultures finding the lines, some Zealots from the north. They're going to get wiped out. Those are units that SuGo cannot afford to lose at this late stage of the match. Additional probes, an empty Side Storm, the Vulture's able to dodge right back out of it. A bunch of mines to the south, the Siege Tanks still waiting in a bundle in between, and it's still, wow, just razor close. Nesh slowly eking out a lead. One Dragoon going down. It looks like another Dragoon going to get taken care of. Some Zealots moving out in forward field. These High Templar are going to be very exposed against those Vultures, and that command center in the meantime is floated all the way to the top right. There is a Dragoon that could potentially disrupt that, but that is a location where Nesh could maybe get mining and up and operational. SuGo going to call it right there, though.
Oh my gosh, GG.
But what a game. What a game. Woo. Unbelievable.
I don't know if you guys can hear, but I'm hearing the crowd outside, and they're going bananas. They're standing applause, standing ovation for both players. It's